The smallest creatures often hold the biggest solutions. My name is Dr. Marcus Patel, and this is the story of how my lifelong obsession with bugs prevented a global food crisis. But to understand how we got here, we need to start at the beginning. I grew up in the suburbs of Minneapolis, where my immigrant parents had built a successful life. My father as a cardiologist, my mother as a corporate lawyer. My sister Priya followed in their footsteps, excelling in pre-med at Stanford. Then there was me, the kid who turned our basement into an insect laboratory and gave everyone at family gatherings detailed lectures about beetle behavior. Beta, my mother would say, her voice heavy with concern. You could be studying human medicine instead of spending time with these creatures. What they didn't understand was that I wasn't just playing. I was observing, learning, and discovering. Every insect interaction taught me something about behavior, adaptation, and survival. While my family pushed me toward respectable careers, I was developing what would later become the foundation of the biosync pollination system. The tension came to a head during my final year of high school. While my classmates were celebrating acceptances to prestigious medical schools, I announced my decision to major in entomology with a focus on pollinator behavior. Bug watching isn't a career, my father said firmly. You're wasting your potential. I looked at him calmly and replied, Dad, without insects, there wouldn't be enough food for any of your patients to eat. At Cornell University, I finally found my tribe. My professors recognized something unique in my approach to insect research. While others focused on individual species, I was fascinated by the complex networks of pollinator relationships and how they could be enhanced or restored. The breakthrough came during my junior year. I had been studying the dramatic decline in global bee populations, but I realized we were looking at the problem all wrong. Everyone was trying to save the honeybees, but what if we could develop a more resilient, diverse pollination system? Late one night, watching different species of insects interact in my laboratory habitat, I had my eureka moment. We weren't just dealing with a bee crisis. We were witnessing the breakdown of an entire ecological network. What if we could rebuild these networks, making them stronger and more adaptable than before? I developed a new approach that combined artificial intelligence with deep understanding of insect behavior. My system, which I called biosync, used a network of specialized habitats and pheromone guides to create sustainable pollinator communities. Each habitat was designed to support multiple species of pollinators, working together in ways that made the entire system more resilient. My doctoral thesis caught the attention of Dr. Sarah Williams, a leading expert in agricultural biodiversity. She offered me a position at her research station in California's Central Valley, along with resources to develop my ideas further. My family's reaction was predictable. Research assistant? My sister scoffed. I'm already chief resident at Mayo Clinic. But I had stopped seeking their approval. 2 weeks after graduation, I was setting up my first large-scale test site in an almond orchard, my heart pounding with anticipation. The initial results were beyond our expectations. Within one growing season, our test orchards showed a 60% increase in successful pollination rates. But what really set biosync apart was its ability to maintain stable pollinator populations even when honeybee colonies collapsed. Dr. Williams was elated. Marcus, this isn't just about saving bees. It's about revolutionizing agriculture. Word spread quickly in the scientific community. Agricultural organizations began requesting partnerships, and research institutions worldwide wanted to implement our system. But it wasn't until the great pollinator collapse of 2024 that our work caught global attention. The crisis had decimated honeybee populations across North America and Europe, threatening food production on an unprecedented scale. While traditional agricultural methods faltered, biosync-equipped farms maintained steady crop yields. Our diverse pollinator communities adapted to the changing conditions, proving remarkably resilient in the face of environmental stress. The United Nations Food and Agriculture Organization took notice. Suddenly, I was being invited to speak at international conferences, consulted by government agencies, and featured in scientific journals. Biosync was being implemented across major agricultural regions, and similar projects were starting in developing nations. Yet my family remained skeptical. Environmental research isn't a stable career, my mother said during one of our rare phone calls. You could be running a real medical practice by now. I didn't bother arguing. The results spoke for themselves. By 2025, biosync had been implemented in over 50 countries, helping maintain food production during the worst pollinator crisis in human history. Our before and after crop yield data was stunning. Farms using our system maintained or even increased production while traditional farms struggled. Which brings us to today, standing up at this global agricultural summit, facing a room full of world leaders, scientists, and yes, my family, finally here to witness what their son's bug obsession had become. My sister's dismissive comment still hung in the air. Marcus is still playing with bugs. But as I looked out at the sea of faces, at the screens showing real-time data from our projects worldwide, I felt only pride. The cameras flashed as I began to speak. 20 years ago, a little boy in Minnesota believed that understanding insects could save our food supply. Today, I'm here to tell you that he was right. Pollinators aren't just interesting creatures. They're the cornerstone of global food security. And we now have the tools to protect and enhance their vital work. I clicked to the first slide, showing the devastating impact of pollinator decline. When traditional agricultural methods couldn't handle the pollination crisis, we had to think differently. We stopped fighting nature and started learning from it. For the next hour, I explained the science behind BioSync, the intricate habitat design, the pheromone guidance systems, the way we created self-sustaining pollinator communities. But more importantly, I shared our vision. We can secure our food supply for generations to come, I declared. Not just by protecting honeybees, but by creating resilient, diverse pollinator networks. The solution wasn't in laboratories or genetic engineering. It was in understanding and working with nature's own systems. The presentation ended with recent footage of our pollinator communities in action. Dozens of species working together in harmony, maintaining food production even in challenging conditions. The applause was thunderous. Later, at the reception, my family approached. My mother's eyes were wet with tears. "Marcus," she said softly, "we were wrong. So wrong." My father, ever the scientist, had questions about the biological mechanisms and ecosystem dynamics. Even Priya, the Mayo Clinic hotshot, was particularly interested in the potential medical applications of our insect-based research. "You really did change agriculture," she admitted, hugging me tightly. "With bugs of all things." But the most meaningful moment came when a young boy approached me, clutching an insect field guide. "Dr. Patel," he said shyly, "I want to be like you when I grow up. My parents say studying insects is weird, but..." I knelt down to his level. "Let me tell you a secret," I said, smiling. "Every scientific breakthrough begins with curiosity, and every great discovery starts with observation. Never let anyone tell you your interests are too strange or too different." That evening, I stood on my hotel balcony, watching insects flutter around the garden lights. My phone was buzzing with messages, congratulations, interview requests, offers of collaboration. But my thoughts were in that long-ago basement, where a little boy believed in the power of understanding the smallest creatures. The next morning, I was back in the field, monitoring our latest BioSync installation. Because while awards and recognition are nice, the real reward is watching our food systems thrive. Every successful pollination, every abundant harvest, every farming community protected. These are the true measures of success. My team has grown now. Young scientists from around the world come to learn our methods, each bringing their own insights and innovations. We've expanded beyond traditional agriculture, adapting our technology for urban farming, reforestation projects, and ecosystem restoration. The work isn't always easy. We face challenges from climate change, pesticide use, and economic pressures. But every time I see data showing stable crop yields in once vulnerable regions, I know we're on the right path. Last week, I received a package from my parents. Inside was my old childhood notebook, filled with detailed drawings of insects and behavioral observations. They'd kept it all these years. Tucked inside was a note. "Dear Marcus, we kept this to remind us of how wrong we were. Your bug obsession wasn't just playing, it was research. It was innovation. It was love for our planet's smallest but most important creatures. We're sorry we didn't see it sooner. You didn't just save agriculture. You showed us a new way of seeing the world. Love, Mom and Dad." I keep that notebook in my field laboratory now, alongside our latest monitoring equipment and research data. It reminds me that great achievements often grow from small beginnings, that passion shouldn't be measured by others' expectations, and that sometimes the most powerful way to change the world is to pay attention to its smallest details. As I write this, I'm preparing for another day of research. My hands will get dirty, my clothes will smell of earth and growing things, and somewhere, another crop will begin to thrive. My sister might still think I'm playing with bugs, but I know better. I'm securing our future, one pollinator at a time. And to that little boy in his basement laboratory, watching insects and believing in their importance, you were right all along. Keep observing, keep dreaming, keep believing. The world needs your kind of curiosity. Today, when people ask me what I do, I don't say I'm an entomologist or an agricultural scientist or even a pollination expert. I tell them I'm an insect whisperer, because that's what my work is really about, listening to the language of insects, understanding the rhythm of natural systems, and helping them work in harmony. Agriculture is thriving, faster than anyone thought possible. Our method has been adopted by farmers in over 70 countries. The United Nations has set ambitious goals for sustainable agriculture using our technology. And every day, more people are beginning to understand what that little boy in Minneapolis knew all along. That insects aren't just interesting creatures. They're the key to our food security. My family now jokes that they should have invested in my bug collection years ago. But this was never about money or success in the traditional sense. It was about proving that passion, when nurtured and developed with dedication, can blossom into solutions the world desperately needs. As I prepare for my next presentation at the World Food Security Summit, I think about all the other dreamers out there. The ones being told their interests are too weird, their passions too strange. To them, I say, hold on to your dreams. Nurture them like precious specimens, because you never know which careful observation might grow into a solution that changes the world. The fields are buzzing again, and somewhere in Minneapolis, in another basement laboratory, new experiments are taking root. My nephew has started his own insect collection, much to everyone's amusement. But this time, no one's calling it creepy. After all, they know better now. Sometimes the biggest changes start with the smallest creatures. And as for me, I'm still studying bugs. And I wouldn't have it any other way. 10 years have passed since that global agricultural summit. The BioSync project has exceeded our wildest expectations. Over 80% of major agricultural regions now use our pollinator management system. Crop yields are stable or increasing, and farming communities report healthier, more resilient harvests than they've seen in generations. My old basement laboratory in Minneapolis has been preserved as an educational center, where school children come to learn about entomology and start their own insect studies. My parents lead tours there now, proudly explaining how their son's bug obsession revolutionized global agriculture. The young boy who approached me at the summit? He's now one of our most promising researchers, developing new applications of our technology for urban agriculture. When I see him working in our laboratories, that same look of wonder in his eyes that I had at his age, I know our legacy is in good hands. Last month, I received the highest honor of my career. Not another scientific award or UN recognition, but a letter from a small farming community in India. It contained a preserved butterfly and these words. Dr. Patel, you helped us remember what our ancestors knew, that the smallest creatures are often the most important. This butterfly was found in our fields, part of the thriving pollinator community your system helped create. Keep it, and remember that your work has planted seeds of hope across the world. That butterfly now sits in a special place in my laboratory, alongside my first insect specimens. It reminds me that every great achievement starts with a simple act of curiosity, believing that something small can teach us something magnificent. To anyone reading this who's being told their interests are too weird, their passions too strange, or their observations too trivial, remember my story. Remember that the world needs all kinds of minds, all kinds of dreams, all kinds of solutions. And sometimes, just sometimes, playing with bugs can save the world. Thanks for watching. See you again in the next video. Stay stunned.